Hello, everybody, and welcome to the HDI Local Chapter's live stream weekly show. Let's get started by talking about our show sponsor, Robert Half. They are a talent solutions firm and leading provider of technology professionals needed to build, deploy, and operate technology in this digital and cloud world. And they do this by placing highly skilled IT professionals on a contract basis or a project basis or even a full-time permanent basis. They basically help you keep your businesses going. You can browse available candidates, you can search for jobs, and you can access additional valuable information on hiring and career insights online at roberthalf.com/technology. And that's going to be really important for today's conversation because this is our quarterly Career Corner conversation. Ooh, that's a lot of C's with Robert Half and our returning Robert Half guest, Zach Jiru. Now, today, I don't have to, if you want to know about Zach, go listen to episode 28 and all the ones before that, or 26, whatever it was. But because we have, Zach and I, we can take the whole 15 minutes and then some. So let's just start by saying, today we're going to talk about Robert Half's recent, study, report, whatever you want to call it, on hiring for the second half of 2021 and the demand for skilled talent. So welcome to the show, Zach.
Hey, welcome. It's always fun to be here. And you're right, we could talk a long time, and I'm glad we get a chance to talk ahead of time as well. So that's always fun.
Yeah. So let's get right into it because, we've already sucked up 30 seconds of our 15 minutes of fame here. So we're going to talk about like the hiring trends or the career trends or whatever you want to call it, the demand. Let's start with the employer side. What are the top hiring concerns for employers right now?
I would say the biggest concern is actually finding the talent, finding the candidates. And I mean, you would think, right? Like, hey, if we're posting a job, we expect people that, you want to get paid, you want to work here. The problem is that there's so much competition for the same talent. It's, unbelievable. I know I mentioned this to you before, but, we do utilize a tool at Robert Half that can show the supply of a specific skill versus the demand for that skill in a geographic area. And sometimes we use it as an educational tool because, we'll try to partner with specific companies that, want skill X and they want it tomorrow. And, we show them that, hey, you're not the only one that's looking for it. In fact, for every one candidate, there's 6, 7, 8 other, job postings just like yours.
So Zach, that's funny because I know as a hiring manager, when I would traditionally before, like we talked about, before the adjusted norm or the whatever we call it now, I remember I'd post a job and I would just like, not anxiety, but I just knew that I was going to get like 50 resumes a day for a single job posting. And now we're sitting there going, there's 50 job postings for one candidate. I mean, potentially what you're kind of saying, right? So I guess, so here's my concern. I know traditionally in places that I've worked as an employer, time is not of the essence for me. I mean, it should be, right? Because what I'm saying is like, it could take me 2 weeks to even look at my first resume that comes in for a job.
Sure.
So tell me about like what kind of problems that's having or like what recommendations you have.
So we actually, one of the studies that we do is always interesting. And I would encourage people, it's actually on our website, I believe. But we do the cost of a bad hire. So, people that don't do their due diligence and how much, time, effort, but dollars that it actually wastes. So I think that's a great read, and that's probably a whole nother show that we could talk about. But one of the statistics I know, Robert Half, we do drill into, our partners, the clients that we work with, is that time is a big factor. And, just one of the stats that we pull up, and it was, Robert Half's research shows that if 62% of the people that are applying for these jobs, so these candidates, if they don't hear back within 2 weeks, they're moving on to the next, position. And I can say personally, I would say that the way the market's moving now is that if they don't hear back within 2 weeks, it's because they found another position. Not that they're applying for new ones. It's because they're already working somewhere else. So that time factor, just as important it is for employers, hey, I have an opening, I need somebody in there. Candidates are, I'm applying for this job, I want the job now.
Yeah.
So there's things that you can do to kind of speed up that process. Tom, you're a hiring manager. If you're looking to fill someone on your team, is it, Tom interviews them, Tom makes the decision, or is it, hey, I gave the green light, now they need to meet with the next person and the next person? What's your process look like?
Well, so first of all, for me, my process is I cut out the beginning people and I tell HR to give me all the resumes because I'm afraid they might cut out somebody that's good. And I do a quick screening and I send it right on to my to getting people set up. I have my team look at them right away. Like I don't wait until I don't batch my resumes. Like I look at them every day they come in and I get them to a few select people on my team to give it a quick look. And if they say it's good, we're contacting that person. And this was even before this craziness time, right? Because my wife had told me, I will admit, like I'm old enough to say that where I'm at right now is not my first job. And
sure.
And I remember my wife goes, you remember when you were waiting to hear back from your employer and they take forever. It was a month and a half long process for me to get in. So she goes, you remember how it feels. Don't do that to people that are applying. Either let them know they're in or cut bait and let them know that. So yeah, it's like I try to get it moving. I don't wait to do batch interviewing or batch processing or anything like that. Yeah.
Yeah, we definitely encourage speeding up the hiring process. So if it's going to be, HR, yourself, a future manager, we would encourage everybody, because a lot of times these interviews can be done virtually, or if you're going to go into a conference room, so that everybody is spaced out, just put everybody in the room all at once, because to have candidates, on the hook for a week, 2 weeks, because they need to, HR is not available, on Tuesday, but if you come back Thursday, you can meet with the next person. And then the following week, it's so much time where they can have a phone call and take a remote position and start tomorrow. That's all the competition is, though.
Right. And so being that there are plenty of places that use firms like yours, this is common knowledge out there for the people you educate. So here's the problem. Like if I'm hiring somebody, like, so I can imagine, I'm not going to sound, no, I just can imagine that if I were looking for a job right now and I go to say Robert Half or LinkedIn or Monster Indeed, Dice, whatever, like I'm sure what you're telling me is I might find 40 jobs out there online that I could apply for. So if I apply for 40 and you're the one that wants me and you wait 2 weeks to get back to me, well, I guess that's not good for you, right?
No, absolutely. I mean, we're encouraging, and we might have hit on this before, just you and I talking about it, but we, in our head, just at Robert Half, my team, the way we're looking at things is we're looking at a 48-hour turnaround, and not saying that somebody needs to be in working within 48, which would be fantastic.
Well, it would, but that's not the point. Yeah.
We need to be going down the right path, though.
I mean, as a candidate, as long as I know within 48 hours that you're interested in me, that's enough for me, right? Yeah, that's
exactly what it is. So what are the next steps? Where are we going?
So we got to move on because, man, we are down. I mean, we're going to be a little long. We're doing it with you guys. We do a little bit longer than 15 minutes, but I don't want to carry on too long. But let's talk about some of the still from the employer side, let's talk about some of the recruiting strategies I as a employer need to use to find people. How am I competitive? What do I need to do to keep competitive?
Well, other than the speed factor, I would say obviously you need to keep the pay competitive, which what I will say now is, Robert Half, we do have our 2022 salary guide coming out next month. So making sure that you're able to compete and actually attract talent, because, one of the things you don't want to do is jump through a bunch of hoops, waste a bunch of time, make an offer and have it just be, you're underpaying someone so that you get ghosted by the candidate. Like they're not going to reply because, the pay is so low. But you need to be competitive and also the benefits and the perks that you're offering. So, we always talk about in this day and age, you need to have that flexibility of remote as well as a flexible work schedule. I mean, folks now have been, conforming to their new schedule of, taking their kids to work in the morning or, being home for dinner. So being able to adjust work schedules time wise, having that flexible 8 hours somewhere throughout the day, that's attractive, and remote work. And look, let's be honest, some places you can't work fully remote, but offering, a flexible schedule, 1 or 2 days you're able to work from home. Those are attractive benefits nowadays. We were joking about it before, right? Most of the time people would just argue over salary, right? Salary or their job title or how many days off do I get? Nowadays, those things are a given, right? They're applying for a job because of the job title. And now candidates have so much information at their fingertips to understand what they should get paid that if you're not competitive, then you're not an attractive company.
Yeah, and so for me, I've never been about the money. Now, don't get me wrong. I feel if I do the job, money will come with it. But you're right. So for what I did hear you say is like the flexibility of if you can offer a position 100% remote, that gives you the advantage as an employer to battle on past the not very many candidates per job, because now your pool of candidates just broadened to, well, pretty much anything on the planet Earth, right?
Absolutely. And I mean, you can compete, you can be more competitive salary-wise offering a remote position or even a hybrid position.
True.
Just think about we're good examples, right? We're on both coasts, right? But if we're hiring, I mean, we hear it all the time here in California, I don't want to pay Bay Area wages. I don't want to pay Bay Area, Silicon Valley wages.
Yeah.
So, okay, companies are going outside of that hiring territory and finding talent throughout the Central Valley, finding talent in Northern California, where cost of living is substantially lower, but you're able to save, companies money because they're willing to open up, the candidate pool and offer remote positions.
Yeah. And so for you employers out there that are watching this, one of the other thing that Zach said that I find true, especially for me, is like, okay, so maybe you can't work 100% remote. Like I have hardware technicians that work for me and they can work partly remote. And I have help desk technicians. We have a walk-up desk, but they still take phone calls and emails that they could do remotely. Here's the catch. Like I'm not kidding you when I say this, I spend an hour and a half each day, each way, commuting to and from work. And Zach, when we first met for the pre-show meeting, I was actually on the light rail trolley system doing our pre-show talk. And I said to you, like, thank goodness my employer right now gives me the flexibility. I go in 2 days a week and I'm remote 3 days a week, which I am right now. And it works for me. So if you can't do 100% remote, at least give some flexibility, because you're right. I can go get my hair cut. I can go to the dentist. I can do that real quickly in my neighborhood in my hour lunch period and still be back if I didn't have to be in the office all
exactly
the time. So you're totally right. So Zach, we're running our time down here, but I want to flip to the job seeker. What are some good tips for job seekers, knowing all that now that we've educated their potential and future employers? What can we tell the job seekers to do for 2021?
Yeah, I would say one of the biggest things that we're seeing a trend away from strong negotiations with the salary, again, because it's so assumptive in what they're doing nowadays. They're leaning so much more on company culture, environment, and then those, again, the flexibility within the company. So even remote positions, candidates nowadays are weighing environment and culture because of the options that they have. I can live in California and be associated with a company I feel strongly about that's in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
Right? If the culture is there and they foster those environments, candidates are looking towards that now. Is it a company I want to say I work with or work for? Right. And that candidates have put a dollar amount on that now.
Speaking of that, and one thing I think you and I talked about prior to the show was, like, if you're a candidate, do also remember that if you're going to work for one of those big Silicon Valley firms, don't look up the salary of what San Francisco people make and demand that from rural Pennsylvania.
Yeah. So that's another plug for the salary guide. It does work both ways. So candidates that are looking for remote positions, you got to keep in mind that if you want to work from home, it could cost you if your company is, if you're living in, again, nothing against Montana, but I have no idea. That's the first state that came to mind. If you live in Montana, you might get paid less than if you lived in California or New York, right? So there's different costs associated with that. And then our salary guide does break down geographically, not just each state, but big cities within the states, the cost of living adjustment and the pay adjustments. So it does work both ways. Companies need to adjust their pay appropriately, but candidates need to have the same expectation.
Yeah, you're right. And my dog's just busted in here, so I hope they're not too noisy. But anyway, no, you're right, because I remember sharing with you, like, I have used the Robert Half salary guide as an employer to know, like, I know Pittsburgh is 1.2, or it used to be like 1.2 or 1.3 below the national average, which means it's for all cheaper to live here than maybe the national average. So that's why you have that factor in there. It's all those things built in. And I like to use that so that I know I'm being competitive with, the market. Because I don't want to go out there and to offer a candidate, this great candidate, too less of money. So let's talk about, so here's the other thing. You talked about, there's lots of jobs out there. And I can go on those big websites, and I'll name drop LinkedIn. Just happen to be looking there, prepping for our show, and notice there are lots of jobs out there. However, they don't tell me how much the salary range is in a lot of cases. So what would you recommend the best solution for a job seeker to be looking for a great company, for culture, maybe the salary range? What would you recommend for somebody like me?
Yeah. So, I mean, you definitely have to do your homework, right? Just like if you're prepping for an interview, you do your homework on the company. You need to do your homework on the position that you're also applying for. And, one of the things that again, we bring up and, that candidates also have access to are the unemployment rates based on the skill set that you have. So there's positions that are in demand. I mean, the unemployment in technology now is what? Just above 5%. But if you go into specific skill sets and jobs, those unemployment rates, I mean, right here, we have DBAs and architects are sub 1% unemployment. Wow. So you got to think, is my skill set in demand? What can I demand in terms of pay? But the other thing that you can do, and LinkedIn's a great one, is reach out to your network to see, what are people getting paid? What's common? You can reach out to someone exactly like Robert happened. Hey, this is my resume. This is the position I'm looking for. What are the pay ranges? I mean, those are all questions that we get asked all the time. I mean, if someone calls up, I mean, we'll just pick on you, Tom, or we could pick on, Sally or whoever. I mean, we can make someone up. But Tom, you call me and you go, hey, Zach, thinking about taking a look at something. This is what I do. This is what I want to do, which is, to me, is more important. I like to know what you do, but I'm more interested in what you want to do. So we can get you into a great spot. This is what I want to do. This is where I live. What am I looking at? And chances are we've placed someone in a similar position at a similar location or even in that company. So you're able to get real world numbers. So
like you don't have little thing behind you, the world there. You can have your real world.
Yeah, you like that?
Right? So Zach, I hate to cut you off. We're at the very end of the show, but before we go, any final thoughts, tips, or things for either the employer or the candidate or both?
Yeah. So the employer, I would say, don't throw spaghetti against the wall. Don't make up, random job descriptions with predetermined requirements with a salary that you're not educating yourself about. Use the tools that are available to you. Ask questions. And when, someone like myself or, our other agencies are reaching out to you that you have a job posted, ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask questions. We can share market intel. What are positions like this going for? What's the average? What are people paying for this position? ask those questions, but then also to candidates. I mean, if you're interested in roles, there are, trust me, there are roles out there, roles aplenty, but not a lot of people. So you have options, and you need to pick an option that's going to be best for you. And now I think you have more power to do that than I've ever seen before.
I was going to say, we kind of have more power to try something a little bit beyond our normal reach. If you want to talk about new normal, right? Like I could actually possibly get a job as, okay, I'll make this up, as a CIO. Cause like maybe something like if I'm a systems administrator, maybe I can go for an architect or an engineer because people are willing to take that chance because maybe I look better than I did, let's say 18 months ago or so. Right.
Yeah, and they may not have another option. There may not be an architect.
So, yeah, so
there may not be an architect available. Exactly.
All right, well,
exactly.
We're going to go ahead and close the show. I want to thank everybody for watching. I really want to thank our producers, Brandon, Amy, Terry, those of you out there that are answering the chats and keeping the chats going, so that Zach and I could have this conversation. Zach, I really want to thank you and Robert Half. I got to thank Leah and Susan, and I'm name dropping because I love all the people that work with you guys, and I'm not even a customer necessarily. I just love working with you guys because I know what you do, and you've helped me in the past and other folks. So thank you so much for being on the show. I want to remind everybody to follow us on Twitch and YouTube. It helps us spread the word of this good stuff that we have, and and follow us at #HDILocal. So Zach, it's been great talking to you. We'll see you probably again in a couple more months, right?
Absolutely. I'm here, and anybody that wants that salary guide, feel free to reach out. It's a free tool for everybody.
And when it comes out, Zach, let me know. I'm sure that Susan will, but we can attach it to the show notes on here and maybe even the future show notes, because I always put the link to Robert Half in our show notes, so yeah, people can find you. So thank you, and again, good evening, and we'll see you next week.
All right. Thanks, Tom.